Let's see, we have prayer by Mackenzie Rice.
She's so cute.
Pretty dress.
That's right.
May you please stand up and bow your heads. Father God, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this day, oh God. We thank you for waking us up this morning. Let's see a brand new day that we've never seen before. Then us again, oh God. Oh God, we pray for North Little Rock School District. We pray for my school, Glenview Elementary. We pray for my principals, Miss Randall and Mr. Kelly. We pray for all the leaders at my school. We pray for all the leaders in North Park School District. In the name of Jesus, we pray, amen.
Amen. Good job.
Oh, let's see, it's Jesse and Joe, yes, there they are, okay.
I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, in liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, parents and grandmother. Okay. Dr. Redis, will you read the vision statement and mission statement, please?
Sure. The vision statement, world-class schools for world-class students. Our mission, the North Little Rock School District and the community will provide for achievement, accountability, acceptance, and the necessary assets in the pursuit of each student's educational success.
Thank you. May we have the roll call, please?
Ms. Temple,
Here.
Dr. Redis,
Here.
Ms. Wonka,
Here.
Mr. Zakreski, Ms. Person West, Ms. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Steele.
Here.
Okay. I guess we're on to student presentation, and I think there has been a slight change, so.
Yes, first of all, Madam President, members of our board, I am so excited about this new component of our board meetings. So at our regular meetings, we're going to have a 5-minute student presentation, elementary, secondary, and it's really to just draw our attention and focus to what happens in our school district every single day, which is about teaching and learning. So I do want to invite, we do have a slight change, but I want to ask Ms. Randall, the principal of Glenview Elementary School, to come forward. Joining her is Ms. Scroggins, who's one of our fantastic teachers as well. And we did have a student that was going to do the presentation, but I think there was I think they had a family
Emergency.
Emergency
I was unforeseen
that-
circumstances.
So they're just going to describe kind of the presentation. So I'm going to kind of turn it right over to them.
Okay. This presentation is going to be from our fifth grade ALE classroom. This is the teacher, Miss Tabitha Scroggins. She's going to give you a little description of the project that they did and what they were learning, and then we have a short video for you guys that was made by the students.
Good evening. I do teach 5th grade ALE, and my biggest challenge is to keep those students engaged. And with this curriculum, it can be challenging. So I had my students construct dioramas of the Native American tribe Nez Perce that we are learning about, and they got to read primary sources of the land, the housing, and the food and things like that. So they got to create. I just purchased all the supplies and they created it themselves. They followed a rubric, and all of that is in the video, so I'll let you guys watch that. Hello, my name is Tabitha Scroggins, and I teach 5th grade ALE at Glenview Elementary. As we begin the beginning of the school year and Module 1, Cultures and Conflict, I begin brainstorming ways of keeping my students engaged throughout the lessons. While following the Wit and Wisdom curriculum, my students constructed individual dioramas as they analyzed the primary sources on food, clothing, shelter, and land. This allowed my students to deeply understand the Nez Perce tribe's way of life, as well as the content. My students were given a rubric to follow to make sure that they met all the components in the diorama, as well as a writing piece and then an oral presentation.
Another person had teepees they made out of buffalo skins. I like how I made my teepee, and I like how I made my person, and I made the bar in the sky, and I learned how we all have different cultures. I learned that the Nez Perce can use their true that they pull on their back.
Students solved engineering challenges as they built a structure that incorporated key elements of the Nez Perce tribe. My students learned and enjoyed this project.
I enjoyed the craft. I learned that the Nez Perce didn't have houses and clothes like us.
Thank you guys for letting us present and show our student work.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Good job.
Executive closed session per North Little Rock School District Policy 1.14 states that private and closed discussions by the board may occur as part of a regular or special board meeting. Executive sessions may be held only for the purpose of considering employment, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, or resignation of an employee, or to discuss matters of pupil punishment if requested by a parent or legal guardian. No resolution, agreement, or motion considered in the executive session shall be legally binding unless the board reconvenes in public session and presents the item for a vote of membership. Would y'all join me in executive session, please? is where we get to hear how busy you are.
Okay. So superintendent involvement, I'm going to go really, really fast. Since our last board meeting. So on September the 21st, I had an opportunity to meet with some state folks around Set the Table, and that is all about getting students involved in food and nutrition, kind of farm to table, and working with the Argenta Arts community was outstanding. On September 29th, I had a great opportunity to meet with Mr. Marshall Ray. He actually works for the Arkansas Historical Association around the need of craftsmanship jobs, specifically in single pane windows. So just trying to develop a partnership in that area. On September 29th, I had the opportunity with the Ford NGL bringing together not only our school leaders, but both chambers together, specifically on where we are in North Little Rock. On September 30th, I was honored. I was served as a panelist for Thriving Schools Using Environmental and Outdoor Education and Learning across the United States, and had an opportunity to represent North Little Rock in that area. On October the 1st, I had an opportunity to attend a fundraiser golf outing with Mr. Poor and our former colleague, Dr. McGee. There was a fundraiser for Teacher of the Year, so I had a great opportunity to spend some time with my colleagues. On October the 4th, we started our Superintendent Staff Advisory Council. That has gone really, really well. It's given me a great opportunity to listen to our teachers. On on October the 5th, I had the opportunity to attend the National Night Out in our community of Dixie. I saw Mr. Steele there as well. I know Ms. Williams. That was a great evening event. On October the 6th is our monthly mayor meeting where I meet with Mayor Hartwick and his team and just collaborate. On October the 6th, I attended the Academies of Central Arkansas. Was a meet and greet. It was the first time I'd ever been at the Clinton Library. So that was a great opportunity. On October the 7th, the Ford NGL at the Convention Center, and I know many of our board members was there, Ms. Williams, Ms. Woncomb, Ms. Person West, Ms. Temple, I think Dr. Redis was there as well, of the work we're doing around our four school districts and our working with our business community. On October the 7th, I completed my Tier 1 annual training, so on finance. On Friday, October the 8th, I was invited by Dr. Pfeiffer, as with our other superintendents, to have a conversation about a teacher residency program to improve teacher licensure in our state. On October 12th, with Ms. Williams, I had the opportunity to engage with our retired teachers. I got to speak to them. That was exciting. On October 13th, I attended, Dr. St. Louis had a virtual parent event. I had the opportunity to spend some time with her. Last Friday, October 15th, I was so excited. I got to meet Brian Kutch. If you don't know who he is, he's the executive director of the Little Rock Zoo. And so we're interested to create a partnership with him. It was great to meet him. On October 19th, this week, I met with the Thea Foundation to build a partnership with them in the arts. October 19th as well, I threw the first pitch out for our World Series that we have every year for our students. So it was great to be with our baseball program. Dr. Redis and Ms. Temple joined me yesterday for the North Little Rock Cares program. We had a press conference to draw more awareness on our mentoring program and our youth initiative. Last night, I had the opportunity to meet with Aaron Stranger from Stagger from the Innovation Hub. It's the first time I'd ever been there. So we're looking to develop a partnership there, some great stuff. And our teachers today, we had professional development. I know Officer Montgomery's here, but I want to thank, again, the North Little Rock Police Department. They did a great job. They gave professional development for all of our teachers today.
Ooh.
That was a busy one.
You need a day off.
Well, as he said, yesterday, Ms. Temple and I, we went to the North Little Rock Cares. This month, since the last board meeting, I had the opportunity to visit all of the schools except for 4. So we're down 4, which was really exciting because it's a shame, but I hadn't been to Crestwood and Lakewood before, so that was interesting. I had to try to find it. And it was great standing next to the President of the United States. When we were at Boone Park, a student came out because they wanted to meet the president, which was Dr. Paluski. So I stood there like I was Kamala Harris, like I was the vice president. But it was amazing. I loved it. On October the 9th, Miss Bobby Riggins, she received a social service award, and I was honored to receive the Survivors Award. And so that was virtual from the School of Religious Studies and Capital Awards, and so I was honored for that. And other than that, Miss Angela Person West and I will take birthday gifts because tomorrow is our birthday.
Oh, congratulations.
Happy birthday. Anyone else?
Go on. Oh, I don't know if she was calling a roll. Oh, I attended the Archford Foundation breakfast where our president received an award they gave us for being a part. All the presidents in the district, presidents received awards. And then we were very fortunate, the North Rock Public Education Foundation, our board, working together with Ms. Copeland, who is our new president, we gave out 13 mini grants and collaborative grants to teachers. Awesome. And these were innovative teaching grants. And so we surprised them, and some were basically equivalent to all of their needs. And we certainly want to thank Ms. Lee Ann Alexander for becoming a part and helping us disseminate and how to issue some of the grants, because sometimes we could be overlapping in what the school district is actually doing. We want to thank you for that. And so with that thought, that's about it. Now, Ms. West.
I've got a couple of questions. Well, I did attend homecoming and the homecoming dance, which I've never seen that many kids at a dance before. What was the attendance like at the parent virtual meeting? And then I got a question about the mentorship program.
For Dr. St. Louis?
Yes.
I do believe, I want to say around maybe 10, maybe 15. I know she had one that was in person, one that was virtual, and then certainly she was going to have one on Thursday night, but that got canceled because of the event.
Okay. And quickly with mentoring, and I'm really glad to see that. But what are the rules now? I'm getting calls from people who used to have mentoring programs pre-COVID, like
Sure.
at 7th Street, and some of those gentlemen who had a program especially for boys want to do it again. But I was told because of COVID, they're not letting.
So thank you for that, and I've gotten phone calls as well, Mr. Steele, and I've met with some folks that had mentoring programs. I'm steering them to Miss Barker. If you remember, about a week ago or a couple weeks ago, we sent out a letter to the community about relaxing some of our protocols, and right now we're really focusing on two things: parent volunteers, so the PTA allowing them in, and then mentoring as well. So I would say if they've had a program, please reach out to Ms. Barker so they can go through our orientation that's coming up next week.
Okay.
And if I can just add one thing, Mr. Steele, I got to attend homecoming as well. This is the first time that we've recognized our local veterans that are also North Little Rock graduates. So it was great to recognize them in our community. Thanks for reminding me.
All right. Since the last board meeting, attended the Ford NGO breakfast. Also, the parking lot parlay at 7th Street. That was actually pretty fun. So we had a chance to attend that National Night Out in the Amboy community. And I have been actively trying to recruit mentors to refer them to Ms. Barker. One thing I did have a question of is what would they have to go through as far as, will they have to go through background checks?
Yes.
Or what?
They'll actually, there's two things. One, they got to go through a background check, but they also have to go through an orientation. Those orientations start next week. They're on our website. We'll publicize those. They're going to start on, I believe, Wednesday and Thursday, and then we'll do another one the following week. And as the need arises, we'll add more of those. And we're certainly at the superintendent forum on Monday and Tuesday of next week. So we want to kind of promote that as well. But those are the two things they'll have to do, a background check and an orientation.
Gotcha, okay. Thank you, that's all I have.
I'm all set. If they show up, they see me. I'm good.
Okay?
Okay, all right. Then we
So,
want-
yep, our information item, so I'll call my two colleagues. So information item 8.1 is the 2021, 2022, our virtual academy program data. As promised, we wanted to make sure that we came back to the board, came back to the public, and just as we've started this version of virtual, how are we doing? And, you know, what's enrollment look like? What's that look like? How's it going? And we wanted to provide that to the public. So joining me are going to be my colleagues, Ms. Alexander, Executive Director of Special Education Programs, Special Services, and Dr. Brooke Reynolds, Testing Coordinator and Virtual Academy Program Director. Ladies, welcome.
Good evening, members of the board. We're here tonight to give you some new data. We have lots of good things going on, and Dr. Reynolds has been doing a great job. So tonight, we're just here to give you some information. I'm going to go over just the special ed pieces, and Dr. Reynolds is going to give you lots of good stuff.
So the purpose, thank you. The purpose of our presentation tonight is to just provide you an update for our virtual learning program 2.0 that we're doing for our 2021-22 school year. So just kind of having a snapshot of what the first 9 weeks enrollment finished out with. So we had 179 elementary students for the first 9 weeks. And as you can see, this is broken down by school and grade level in each direction. For the for secondary, second 9 weeks, again, this is kind of where we ended on first 9 weeks, forgive me. For the middle school, we had 156 middle school students, and at the high school level, 235. So another breakdown again, enrollment by gender. And oh my gosh, my eyes are not as good as they should be, even with glasses. So a total of 570, and broken down pretty evenly dispersed, a few more females than males, and again, it's done by each school, so you can kind of see a breakdown by each school and totals for the gender for the first 9 weeks. Our student groups, so we are broken down here. Oh, sorry, I'm going on my screen and not switching here. Forgive
You
me.
want me to click?
Sure, yeah, that way I'm not doing two things and not moving at the same time. So we have it broken down here by race, black, white, and other. And so you can see again by each school the breakdown and total numbers. So a heavier on the black population was 413. White population of 138 and other would be 19. Maybe you don't want me to go. Where do I? Over, I think if you lean that way, yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Well, I'll just remember. There we go. So special populations. So just different types of students we're serving in our virtual academy. Gifted and talented, 29 students. Students that are considered special education, so they do have that IEP. We have 50 students. 24 students that were dyslexia students, 21 EL students, and 32 students with a 504. This is a total of 156, but some of these students may fall into two categories depending on their needs. So the things were, oh, okay, stop there.
Okay, on your two dedicated educators, teachers down here
Yes.
doing virtual, are they coming from our district? Or are we paying person to do both the virtual and, all of it? So
So Ms. Williams, I can answer that for you. They are two special education teachers from our district. They're providing their special education services in addition to the Pearson platform. So these students are all enrolled in the Pearson platform, and then they have a special education teacher providing their special education minutes in addition to the Pearson platform.
so person is still taking care of the self-contained, but our teachers are just in their program, so who's paying them?
We are paying our teachers, and then they are also enrolled in the Pearson platform.
Okay. Okay, so they doing both. They are doing the self-contained outside of what?
They are not teaching anything but virtual all day. They're
Okay.
not teaching a class and doing virtual. They're teaching only virtual all day. They're just a dedicated special education teacher for the virtual academy. They're not teaching a regular class and doing virtual. They're only working with virtual students.
Okay, you did have it in your report where they work daily. So that's all they do?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clear, because initially when you gave your report, seemingly we were just using their teachers, so thank you for the information.
They did not have certified special education teachers on staff at Pearson, and so to ensure that our students got the services in their IEP, we pulled some of our teachers to be virtual special education teachers, so they got all their needs met.
Okay, so that's why they dedicated. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
You're welcome.
I think Dr. Reddick, did you have a
I
question?
did.
Okay.
So those two teachers are taking care of all of our virtual special ed?
They are taking care of all of our virtual special ed except our self-contained students, and we have 2 other teachers taking care of our self-contained students. So we have 2 other teachers doing virtual self-contained and 2 doing regular special education students. I'm sorry, I didn't make that very clear.
That's okay.
So, services that we are providing, are receiving some GT enrichment, through North Little Rock teachers. Ms. Curlin especially is providing some enrichment for the students that are GT, again, the 2 special ed. They do, the ELL students, the teachers that are within their buildings are doing some checking in on them, making sure they're getting the support they need. If a student has dyslexia interventions, then they are meeting with North Little Rock School District dyslexia interventionist and receiving services through them. Pearson does have a place where we have uploaded all the students' IEPs, LPACs, and 504s, and they're following the plans, with the reduced work or extra time. They are following the plans that the students have. Okay, so talking a little bit about our trend data, so that way you can kind of see where things have gone. First week of school, we did have some movement both ways, both virtual. I'm clicking things and hitting microphones today. Both ways. We had some, you know how you guys saw it happen. You approved this plan with 200 students, and then everything happened, and we ran up to 600 in less than a month. So there was some communication things that kind of got lost. Some people thought they were virtual and they weren't. Some people signed up for virtual and they weren't. So we had some first week fixing to do. So that's why you're going to may have seen some data fluctuation, just to get things and make sure everybody was where they were supposed to be and wanted to be. Again, people signed up and didn't know what they were signing up for sometimes. And then some people didn't sign up for virtual before the deadline and said, oh, no, I cannot be in the building. So we made accommodations and got folks where they wanted to be that first week of school. We're also our enrollment has switched because students have dropped from North Little Rock School District, or we've also gained new students by bringing them into our virtual program. We've allowed continuous enrollment in virtual for any new student that joins the district. So if you're new to the school district and you say I'd rather be virtual than the building, we have allowed that to happen. Second 9-week movement. So at the beginning of the second 9 weeks, we've been analyzing grades and people not engaging in Pearson, and made phone calls to parents and offered those students the opportunity to move back in the building at second 9 weeks because we wanted them to be successful. So we did have some movement at second 9 weeks, which you're going to see in our numbers with the failing shortly. We have added new students at second 9 weeks. We allowed them to come into the program if they chose to, so we have had quite a few students join at the 9 weeks. So now when this presentation was done, let me say our second quarter enrollment was 489 virtual students.
So we lost 81?
Well, is that 81 from the 600? Is that what you're going from? Well, we lost more than 81, but we added some. So in a moment, I'm going to talk about how many we moved back to the building. So the 81 is, no, we lost more than 81, but we moved some in. So that's where that number may seem a little different.
Well, Dr. Reynolds, may I ask you a question?
Sure.
I know we had policies when you all brought them to. Now, by any chance, did we allow parents request to influence you to try to let them come back before the 9-week period was up? How did you all work with that?
Well, we worked with the students, I mean, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of the support we've provided. You know, we said, we asked for the commitment for this semester, but we allowed to come back at 9 weeks if they were failing. Now, we've reached out to them through myself, through the guidance counselors at the school, offered support, those kind of things, because moving in the middle of the 9 weeks, it's not good for the student. And I talked to the parents about that too, because they're moving into the building in the middle of it, or some of them wanted to come virtual in the middle of the 9 weeks. And just the way the curriculum on both ways is set up, it just wouldn't benefit the student to move midstream. And that's one thing we wanted to avoid this year is moving in the middle of a grading period or moving in the middle of instruction and what's going on. So most folks were fine with it once we talked it through and offered the support. No one was terribly upset with having to wait till the 9 weeks.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Sure. Okay, so I'm gonna move on here. And this is where Ms. Alexander's gonna discuss a little bit more in depth about how we're servicing our self-contained students that are virtual.
So our self-contained students, these are our most cognitively delayed students. So all of our self-contained teachers did not want to do dual teaching. So we have 2 self-contained teachers that are helping us with that. We're using some digital platforms. We're using Freckle, IXL, and Google Classroom. They're meeting with them daily. We have dedicated virtual teachers. We're backing that up with some send home packets for information. Virtual is not the best way to go for self-contained. It's very hard. But we do have some students that have some very medically fragile needs that don't need to be in school right now. So we're trying to do a blended approach. They are not in the Pearson platform, our virtual students. They're not included in Brooks' numbers for Pearson, and we're not paying for them to be in Pearson because it's just not set up. They are not set up to handle our self-contained, low cognitively delayed students. That's why I didn't elaborate too much when you asked your question, because I knew I had this slide coming up, Dr. Redis. So we do have 2 teachers that are working on that. They take a different assessment than the ACT Aspire. They take the dynamic learning map assessment. And so they will come on campus to do that. We won't be doing that virtually. You can't do it virtually. Those scores will still count in our letter grade scores for the schools, and it's just a good way to assess their knowledge as well. Anybody have questions for me now for
Are
self-contained?
these the same 2 teachers you were talking about?
So we have 2 virtual teachers for Pearson, and then we have 2 self-contained teachers. So I didn't
Right.
make that very clear because I had this slide.
It does now.
So now, does that make better sense? I probably should have put those 2 slides together, and then it would have been clearer.
See, because on your first statement, you know, you had down here that those teachers would be doing self-contained, you know, the program.
Right, so those Pearson teachers are only working with like resource inclusion, students that can perform in the Pearson platform. And then these teachers are working with our low cognitively delayed students that are self-contained students.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'll just point out too, we do have 21 students self-contained that are virtual, and they have all remained virtual for the second 9 weeks, so. All right, so talking about first quarter grades. So we talked about this previously, but all the students that are on the virtual platform will be following our North Little Rock School District grading policies, meaning that our K-3 students are standards-based grading. So in the chart, I've talked about students who have Ds and Fs, so that's only for grades 4 through 12, because our K-3 students follow that same standards-based grading that our other elementaries. So again, our 412 students follow that traditional grading scale, the 90, 80, 70, those types of things. So 129 students. So that, Ms. Williams, we talked about how many we went to the building and came back, but we did send 129 back to the building based on their grades. And so factors that contributed to this. Mainly, they may have logged into the attendance, but they were not doing the work. I found, and I think I was discussing it earlier, if the students are doing their work, most of them are pretty successful. The ones that are failing are simply just not doing the work and not doing the work in a timely manner. And so that's kind of why they were failing. I think that on the most part, they will get in there and do the work, they can be successful. So they weren't logging into the platform on a regular basis, and they were not turning in assignments. And I broke it down for you a little bit to show kind of who all was going back to the building. So those K-3 students, again, those were ones on those standard-based gradings. We sent 35 K-3 back, 21 4th through 5th grade, 35 middle school students, and 38 high school students. And as you can see over on the chart, I put the number of students that had 3 or more D's or F's on their report card. You will notice 154, we only sent 129 back. The ones that were failing were all offered the opportunity to return to the building. Not everyone took us up on that opportunity to return to the building. So that's why you're seeing that number at that point. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about attendance. So again, we are following the North Little Rock School District attendance policy. We ask that students submit their attendance each day in Pearson by 12 o'clock. That way we have the opportunity on our end to place it in eSchool and they get those phone calls just like all of our in-person students. Attendance they do receive the letters just like those. So if you miss the 3, 6, or 9 day mark, you will receive the letter. And that does prompt a lot of parents to call me and ask questions, and that does help out as well in that communication effort. This is what we're struggling with and that we're going to focus on second 9 weeks. There's a number of students not marking themselves present in Pearson. As you see here, anywhere from 150 to 170 students each day did not mark their attendance correctly. So it's better already. I'm going to tell you now, we've been running, it's about 100. In our office, now that we have my new virtual registrar started on Tuesday, so I'm very thankful. We're going to have some more help, and we can focus on contacting these parents more frequently and saying, please make sure that attendance gets done by 12 o'clock. So that's our improvement. Most of those students, though, that have 10 or more absences that we're not engaging, were also the ones that are failing, so they have moved back to the building for the second 9 weeks. And you can see a breakdown here of students and their schools, which ones had the 10 or more absences, and it is a large number. Again, that's one of our focuses, is to make sure, and I think some kids just forget, they're doing work and they're getting on, but they're just not doing their attendance regularly, so we want to try to just make that more of a habit for them. Okay, so we're going to talk about next our NWEA, the Northwest Evaluation Association data. So our virtual students did participate in the NWEA assessment. And so here's a little bit of a breakdown about how the scores looked. I was pleased with how the scores were. I thought they did well. So I think that's a good indicator of they're still being able to get that quality education virtually. So let's talk about what these scores mean. So we have the RIT scores, and that is the RASH. And I did this on purpose, the UNIT, the way it looks, because that R, and then you can see where the IT comes from, so the RASH unit, and that's used to measure and compare academic growth. Specifically, this scale measures that academic difficulty and how they're performing. So the RIT scale extends across all grades, and this test, it's one of those tests that if they answer questions, the more they get right, the harder the questions get. And if they start missing questions, it's adaptive, and it'll go back down for them. So the fall testing window actually began the first day of school, and it runs through next week, October 31st. So we do still have some makeup tests going on. For the most part, our testing is done, but we do have some students we're still trying to make up. I wanted to point out, though, our K-2 students have to test between the windows of September 3rd and October 7th. Because of DESE. They purchased this test for us. This is their required test for their assessment. So they specify when we test our K-2 students. So just kind of looking down here, what I did is I took our kindergarten students and I took their reading and math scores so you can see what they made in average virtually. And I compared that and I put their in-person counterparts and how they scored on each test. So I'll just give you guys a second to kind of digest and look over that. They do not start taking the science portion of the test until 3rd grade, so that's why you do not see a science score on the kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd graders. Okay. I'm going to move on to secondary. So we're going to see 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th and 10th. You're seeing TBD on those 9th and 10th graders. We're still working through, because the number of students being tested, they are still finishing up this week, getting those. So that data is still forthcoming, which I'm anxious to see what that looks like. In general, if you look, our virtual students are performing at the same level or a little bit better in most parts. I don't see a big discrepancy in them falling lower than their in-person counterparts. So again, I was pleased with that, the outcome of the NWEA. I think it looked good. I was very pleased to see that information. Okay. So at the end of the 9 weeks, we did a parent survey. Unfortunately, 44 people responded out of the over 500 we had. So we're going to have to take that. This is a very small sample size. So it says, was your student virtual the previous school year, 2021? And overwhelmingly, most of our parents were virtual last year. So this is a group that's been with us. So you can kind of gather with that with 91%. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Reynolds,
Yes, ma'am.
well, do you have any suggestions of how we might increase the parent response? I read your whole report.
Yeah.
And in that, you said the counselors were helping with the virtual
Yes.
daily.
Mhm.
Could you all cross with each other
Sure.
to help each other?
And we do some cross, they don't have as much access with the parents, they mainly communicate with the students. And this survey was sent out through the parent email, plus I sent it out through the phone messaging system saying, please check your email for the survey. This is just one, and that you're gonna see in my future plan of action about the communication piece, we need to get better.
I know, because in your report though later down here, you were saying that the counselors
Yes,
did a daily check,
weekly.
and never thought maybe how you could get cohesive with them.
Sure.
Maybe you all can work out something, because I know you're trying to do a lot, but can you, so you can answer my question then, what do you think we can do?
I think the problem is, and I've seen this again and again, I'll send multiple things out, and unfortunately, I will mention this later in the presentation, it's difficult when your only communication is via phone, email. That's really the only way. It's not like a child comes to the building, parent picks them up, or we have that ability. So it's a little bit of a challenge for us, but we've got to figure out a way, and I've tried, and I'll again discuss this later in the presentation. Any of our new families that have come in, I've impressed upon them to check email. We've got to have good email. We've got to have that good communication so they can get the information and get it back to me in a timely manner. So we're just going to continue to work to make sure we have correct information and good communication with our parents.
Is there any way to do it by text?
Well, I do that, and I'm going to speak about that just later in the thrill share. I'll explain that, but yes, we do.
Because
I know that's better. A lot of folks, yes, I do, but I do send that out as well, Dr. Revis.
I have a dentist appointment next week, and they send me the forms by text message, and I sat
Yeah.
and did
Did
it.
it on the phone.
I did it on my phone.
And you can do these on the phone too. When you have this is a mobile-friendly form to fill out. So, okay, I'll go ahead and move on to our next question we talked about in the survey. And you can see this kind of goes with kind of the way I feel like a lot of our students are performing. Either they are excellent, they are happy and everything, and then we kind of have not much middle ground, then we have I'm not happy at all, I'm not satisfied with it. And you're going to see most of the answers fall into that valley type situation, the peak and valley. So again, the question was, how would you rate your overall virtual experience from poor to excellent? And again, it kind of went down and back up. So it's a lot of them, again, because you're looking at what we did last year, and so some of them really like what we did last year, and then I've gotten just the opposite, really like what we're doing this year instead. So that's why I think we're seeing that kind of a valley is what I'm going to say on that one. Okay, how would you rate the workload of the courses? I asked this question because I wanted to get more than feedback. I heard this via phone conversation with multiple parents thinking the workload was a little too heavy for their students. They felt like they were having to do more work than their in-person counterparts. So I asked this question, and it is a mixed result of, poor meaning they had just too much work, and excellent meaning, hey, I think we've got just the right amount. So this one was a little bit of a all over the board in the place of this one. So, how would you rate the rigor and difficulty of the lessons? Because again, some of the feedback I received before the survey was, this is really difficult, it's hard to work through, but the results were kind of all over the place of it was too hard. And we have to remember also, having elementary age students, you have to have that parent or the adult at home helping you out. So sometimes if mom or dad or grandma or whomever can't be at home, and the kids having to walk through it by themselves, it may have been a little bit difficult for them. I think our older students are pretty able to catch on and move through it. How would you rate, again, a lot of this is based off of things I heard, how would you rate the Pearson format and the usability of it? And again, a little bit of a slope there, a little bit heavier on the poor end. I think some people have had some technical issues, which I've heard less of now as we've moved into it. And I think a lot of it is they're catching on to it and learning how to walk through it, learning how to do those kind of things. So I feel like it's getting better, and our phone calls in my office are getting less. How would you rate the course offerings? Again, a little bit across the board. This is probably more geared towards our high school students. It is a little bit limited in what they can take virtually, but I think most of them are pretty happy with our course offerings. I think they would like some more art type classes, but virtually art and those kind of fine art type things are a little bit more difficult to teach virtually. And how would you rate the teacher interactions? Again, a little heavier on the poor side. I think the kids like the amount of teacher interaction because I think last year they felt like they were on the computer all the time and doing things. But I think the parents would like a little bit more frequent meeting with the teachers. But I have talked to some of our students that were struggling and asked them, have you taken advantage of the office hours that are offered? There's the live lessons piece, but there's also office hours. And also, every Pearson teacher has a link. They have their cell phone number listed on there to call at any time. They have you can book me, and you can book a private lesson, and everyone have those opportunities. They also have at least 2 different days of office hours, kind of like what we think about college when we go to professors' office hours. And then they have that live lesson. So I think students just aren't taking as much of advantage of that as they could be. And when I visited a little deeper with some parents, they weren't aware of some things too. So I think that's helped out as well. So let's talk about parent support. And what things we're offering to our parents to help them through this process and understand everything. Parents had the opportunity to attend a virtual open house the week before school. I offered 3 of them, one for elementary, one for middle, and one for high school, just so we could customize what we were talking about. Hosted by myself as well as a Pearson representative, and Ms. Alexander's special education teacher was there at every time to answer any of those questions, Ms. Russenberger. They were not as well attended as I would like them to be. It was, again, go back to what Ms. Williams was saying, we have to send things out via email, trying to get people involved. I think that's one of the reasons we had a little bit of a struggle the first 9 weeks is people didn't come and listen to how to work through the platform because the Pearson representative went through everything in detail. We went through some expectations, but people weren't there. They didn't hear that message, and that caused a little bit of trouble. I've hosted several monthly parent virtual meetings since that initial open house, just so I could walk through some things with parents, answer questions, and do those kind of things as well with the platform and answer questions about attendance and policies and those types of things. Especially this last month, I've had several one-on-one sessions with parents and students. I've called a parent or I've called a student because I've seen they're struggling, they're not doing the work they need to be, and I'll do a Google Meet with them and walk through their classes and explain what they're not turning in, what they need to do to be successful, and the kids are very receptive and I've seen some improvement once we've had these meetings. Parents are very receptive, so I think those help. I wish I could get everybody to come in at once, but I'm happy to do those one-on-ones. If it gets through to them, I'm happy. In-person walkthrough appointments, I do allow people to make appointments with me and come into our office and walk through things with them if they prefer that, and some people want us to sit down and do things with them. So we do offer, if someone wants to walk in and do that, we have offered those kind of appointments. I do the first month I sent out weekly emails. Now it's a little bit more bi-weekly, talking about informational topics, talking about testing. I know we sent out a lot of information. They can still attend homecoming and do those kind of things, just so they keep in touch, pictures and those things. So that comes out. And it's some support topics as well. I do have a video I send out every time saying, here's how you mark your attendance and those kind of things. So we do have that support. Back to the texting that Dr. Redis asked for, we do use ThrillShare, which is our district notification. So anytime I send an email, I always send it with a text as well. Please check your email. I have sent important information about virtual that I need you all to see. So I do follow up with that thrill share. And then lastly, we do have a Virtual Academy website and a Facebook page. So I do keep those updated with information. So those are just some different ways we've supported our parents in trying to get that information out to them. Okay, so talking about what Ms. Williams was talking about, our counselor contact. So per our state approval application with DESE, school counselors are to make that weekly contact with our virtual students, which has been a tremendous help because it helps me, because maybe I have information and I relate to the counselors and let them know what I've been working with, and they do the same. They contact me and let me know I've spoken with this parent, they'd like for you to reach out, and we help each other in that way. So they may do a phone conference, they may do a Google Meet, kind of depends on what works best with their scheduling and what the students will attend. Some things they may discuss in these meetings, they may talk about grades, what their attendance, if they're struggling working in that Pearson platform. They talk about their social, emotional well-being, being at home, maybe the isolation they may feel about that kind of a thing. And then they offer those additional supports. They're just there, again, as that liaison between the building and myself and what's going on, so they can keep the students involved if they want to come attend some activities or events in the building that they're allowed to, or if they need just some additional supports from myself or any kind of, I know we've done some therapy and those kind of things, which we've worked with the special services department. Okay, so a little bit kind of 5 like emerging things, some big ideas just to kind of wrap up what we've done. Parents and students need that Pearson training in the portal. And what I've done is, I said moving forward, so second 9 weeks, if you want to join the Virtual Academy, you have to come to an orientation first. Because I realized, you know, and again, first, we were so moving like this that first 9 weeks. So anyone that wanted to, I required. I hosted 5 of them just to make sure, because some people didn't show up or this or that. And when they said, I can't log in, I'm like, you know, you cannot log in because I've locked your account until you show up with me 15, 20 minutes just to get it through. So I think that change has made a huge impact on just students knowing how to walk through things, do their attendance. So that will be, if we add more people in January, the same thing will happen. You will not be able to get in and start working until you attend a little Google Meet with me and understand it. Streamline the grading and attendance process. We're working through that. We're working with Pearson to streamline things. It's been a little bit of a little bit of a rocky road getting their first 9 weeks. We've made it, and I think I'm working closely with our program manager in Pearson. She and I meet weekly and discuss issues and problems and work through things, and she's been a fantastic help to me. Anything we've asked for, Leanne said in a couple of them, they're willing to accommodate and help us have their program match our needs. So you see the second part of that sentence, we have hired a registrar secretary to help out, and she started on Tuesday. It's been a tremendous help already. It's going to be very instrumental, again, in freeing up some of my time to be able to work more closely with those students that are maybe not as successful and get them going.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Back on that streamlined grading, you already have, these are 5 emerging things. You all already have a registrar?
Yes, ma'am. That she started Tuesday, so it's there. This presentation was finished a few days before, but she is here and she is working. This is her 3rd day today.
Okay, very good.
Yes, so that check part. That one's done.
Well, what is the role of the registrars that we have in school? They couldn't assist you in any way?
Well,
You know, like we have
Sure,
registrars,
sure.
2 registers at the high school,
Sure.
1 in COE.
sure.
I said, could they help you in any way?
They did until we got. They were helpful. So anytime I needed anything from the guidance side of the registrars, the attendance clerks, they have been pitching in and helping me as best they can until she got hired. But yes, they did pitch in because I couldn't have made it to the first 9 weeks without help with them. So
That's
yes,
what I was saying. Seemed like, you know, we could be working together on
they
some
did,
of
and
these.
they did. Anything I asked for, they absolutely helped with.
And our counselors helped with scheduling.
Yes.
And they went above and beyond as well to support. Because one of the challenges we were facing is and this is in Ms. Hale's shop, that with the Pearson platform and attendance and scheduling, there's not a direct link, like an IT link. So they got to be scheduled in eSchool in order for us to get credit for that. Those through the ADE reporting. So I just want to thank our school counselors that helped as well.
They did.
And same with
especially at the
grades.
secondary level.
Yes.
Grades had to be hand entered too, so they all helped with grades and entering
And grades.
grades and
And
reports.
Miss Jackson at the high school
And then
was
they're
instrumental.
doing two different jobs. One is streamlining the grading and the attendance process of the virtual students. That's, whereas our registrars we have, they are dealing with the other aspect. You know, the regular face-to-face.
Right, right.
Okay, so there was a need, just a question for clarification.
Sure.
That's all. See if
Okay.
you were getting all the help you needed. that's all.
I know, and I appreciate your support. Yes, I think we're on the right track, because I think we're in a good spot. So the third bullet point, and this is something I realized that we need to do, and I have been doing, if somebody calls me and wants to be virtual, I make sure I don't just automatically say, okay, I have a conference with them. I explain the process. I make sure they understand what we're doing and the program before they come into it, because I want them to hear everything and make sure it's the right decision for their child. And then if they want to continue, then of course. So that's a piece that I make sure we do. So that can be via a Zoom meeting, which I did with multiple parents, or I do a private phone conversation just to make sure they understand the program, the expectations, and that's a good fit for their student. Again, the first day orientation was not possible due to time constraints. So again, they've got to attend that orientation and make sure. Eventually, of course, we'd love to have it in person, but right now we're doing it virtually. Because if we'd been able to do it in person, we could actually have them log into their computer, because that's kind of what we run into now is I can't log into my computer, or I can't fix this or that. And if they're with me, of course, I can just zippity-doo, otherwise talking over the phone. You guys know how it is when you're doing tech support. It's a little difficult over the phone. What Ms. Williams was talking about, communication has been difficult due to sometimes incorrect contact information. Of course, the in-person buildings deal with this as well. So I do make sure I do everything I can to have that correct information, and every way I can get to contact those parents. So we just want to make sure we have all the up-to-date and information. And a lot of times a parent will call me and they say, oh, well, I have a new phone number. And that's how I get it updated. So that's one of the things we've realized that we need to work on, is making sure we have that good, solid communication with our parents. Okay, so what next actions, what may be coming up with us? So we want to continue to work with Pearson and our families to provide that quality education in a virtual environment. So of course we're with Pearson through the end of May, and they've been a good partnership, and we're going to continue to work with them, making sure it's the best for all of our students. At the end of the first semester, it was always in our plan, if families want to transition back into the building, or if they want to transition to virtual in January, we're going to allow that to happen. We want to begin the process of potentially vetting our own teachers in North Little Rock School District to teach virtually for the 2022-23 school year. We'd like to see this program be sustained, but use our own staff members to do the teaching. We also need, yes ma'am, excuse me.
I just want to hear it again. You said it before, but when we're saying we want to do that, they're going to be doing virtual only.
Yes.
Not virtual and teaching in the classroom.
No, ma'am, we're not that. They would be a dedicated virtual teacher. We know that there is not a good plan, and we would not do that to them. Okay, and then we wouldn't want to determine via an interest survey, just like we did before, how many people would be interested in virtual for the 22-23 school year. So going forward, we know what if we want to continue using the Pearson platform, if we want to use our curriculum. What teachers we would need, those kind of things to serve all of our students. And finally, we want to establish that virtual learning program using our teachers. So at the end of the day, that would be our goal, is to use our teachers rather than using Pearson and their teachers. And I think
Thank you.
that is it. Does anybody have any other questions for us, or anything you'd like to ask?
I do real
Yes,
quick, as
ma'am.
far as the parental engagement. Other than sending out text messages, I know that you said you were sending out text messages, email. How often before, like you have a meeting or a training, how often do you send those out prior to?
If we've got something going on, I usually, as soon as I think of it, usually the week or so before, I'll send it out. Then I always send some kind of a follow-up. Especially we were dealing with students, I can think of an example right now, we're allowing virtual students to come on campus to take the ACT. So that message went out multiple times, just here it is, here's a reminder, you know. So generally, if it's something like that, now if it's just information, that doesn't bear repeating. If it's just an informational piece, then that's usually just a one-time. But if it's something that we need action taken, or the student's gonna need to do something, that's usually sent out multiple times before the event happens. I know, just again, it fresh in my mind, the homecoming announcements, the testing piece, that stuff went out several times.
Okay. Because, I mean, out of the students that you have in there, 44 responses is kind of low. So I was just trying to think off the top of my head, like what, you know, you could do to help incentivize, even if it's like a Kroger gift card drawing,
It's not a bad idea.
possibly, or some type of
Sure.
something to get them to respond, and they have an opportunity to maybe win a $50 gift card, possibly. Just a thought.
Sure. Not really a question, but a comment. I wanna thank you, ladies, for working as a team. All the calls I received, I'm sure other members did as well. It's just a madhouse the first few weeks, and thank you guys for getting that all together, and all the reasons, I won't call them excuses, reasons why, you know, you have grandmother say, well, I can go virtual, and then the mother said, no, not doing virtual, you're going to school, and then, or the kid actually saying, I'm going to school, but they have paperwork for virtual. But ironing all that out, I think you guys did a good job. You know, I will say that was not discussed. I just think that you know, not being in school, I mean, it's a lot to say about a learning environment, you know, and learning what you learn from your fellow peers. I think that means a lot. I think when we all went to school, we learned from each other, and virtually does not really give you that opportunity, and that may be some of the reasons why we're seeing the discrepancy. But good job. Keep up the good work.
And Dr. Reynolds,
Yes, ma'am.
make sure you compliment those registrars for doing a great job. You gave them shout outs tonight. I knew the job that they were doing, but to hear you say it and to know that you had a hire, you know, when we get so much hiring, we must have missed this one for, you know, you all for registering. Anything to help you, seem like you all going through a lot, but you're doing good. You're doing good. And I know the parents are wearing the world out of you, but they're the stakeholders, and whatever they say, we're supposed to be good, give them good customer service. And I think that you all are doing excellent job on that, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Madam President, members of our board, our consent agenda items, 9.1, the superintendent recommends 9.1, our bank reconciliation report for September, 9.2, the board report for September 2021, the check register for September of 2021, the items, 9.4, the items for approval, and 9.5, facility use request.
You have a motion, please?
Madam President, I so move that we accept the consent agenda 9.1 bank reconciliation report, 9.2 the board report, 9.3 check registry, the 9.4 items of approval, and 9.5 facilities use request.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Madam President, members of our board, action item 10.1, employment of personnel. The superintendent recommends the employment of personnel as discussed in executive closed session.
Motion, please?
Madam President, coming, Mom, coming. I so move that we accept the employment of personnel by Dr. Paluski.
Second.
Moving properly second. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carried.
Madam President, the next item is item 10.2, the approval of community service learning partners, and I'll ask my colleague, Ms. Hale, who's joined by her colleague, Ms. Ledger, to do a very brief overview. These are community for our service learning that have to be approved by our Board of Education to go to the state board for their approval. So I'll turn it over to my colleagues.
Good evening, members of the board. Ms. Leger and I are here to ask for your approval for some community service learning partners that have to be approved by our local board before being sent to the state board for approval. So we've got a short presentation. We'll show you what we're asking and what exactly this program is.
We'll see if I can pull that presentation up.
Good report. You want some water?
I've been sipping on it.
Yeah, it'll be at the end of all those. Yep. There it is.
Okay,
Thank you.
so this community service learning, Ms. Leger actually helped me to put this presentation together for you. You see the names of the other two head counselors at the high school level who are also given the opportunity to contribute. So, thank you. I don't know what this-
You did good.
Okay, Act 648, you can read, I don't need to read that to you, but basically this is something that says a student can have a minimum of 75 hours of documented community service. This, the state puts this information out for us, and they can complete that in grades 9 through 12 that you see there, and then there's a link to the handbook that actually the state gives us as a guideline for implementing this program at our schools.
Very good.
This community service learning has been a part of the North High School since 1997. This would be the first year for the program at the COE, and it's my understanding that they just plan to mimic what is at the high school. Course approval for this course was accepted on July 17th of 2019, and the materials were created based on the guidelines that I showed you in the last slide, the link that was there given to us by the ADE. So beginning with the class of 2023, which is our current juniors, 75 community service learning hours will be a component to be an honor graduate. So in the past, the honor graduate is just the 3.5 cumulative in a college core. We are adding for our current juniors that they will need to have the 75 hours of community service learning to be an honor graduate. This program also contributes positively to our ESSA scores in the buildings. So what is community service learning? Is a method where students can learn and develop through active participation in thoughtfully organized service that is conducted and meets the needs of the community. That's my favorite part of this. This is not just volunteer work. This is something that is meeting a need in our community. This is an approach to teaching and learning in which the students' academic knowledge and skills address those community needs. And it's a way to foster civic responsibility among our students.
Question?
Yes, ma'am.
No, it's back to the question I'd asked you previously, since you were talking about genuine community needs. And then I had asked a question about Girl Scouts who received the Silver and Gold Awards. Those are community, and also your Eagles, which now they have boys and Girl Scouts, but anytime they get these awards, they have to they are community service, oriented. And I was wondering if our students, these kinds of programs can be used in this living program to assist, those that are already doing things of this nature.
Okay. We are about to get to which organizations can be covered, but can I come back to that question? Okay. So the students have to prepare a project based on a need that they see in the community. They have to bring their project to life through active service, and then they have to write a paper. about it, and a slideshow. And they do that by submitting application through the guidance office. So here, to answer Ms. Williams' question, the
Okay.
ADE has issued an extensive list of service agencies and organizations that are already approved by the State Board of Education. Can we click on that link for me, please? So, this is 5 pages long of all of the different, organizations that are already approved. So this would be your basic, and I'm going to assume, because I have not memorized this list, that the Boy Scouts of America and Girl Scouts are probably on this list. Do you know?
I don't, I have not memorized it either, so it's pretty extensive. But if it's not, it's something we can get approved, so.
So these are the ADE's list in our county of all ones that are already approved. These are already approved. So the ones that we're bringing before you tonight would not appear on this list. And most of the ones that you're seeing on that list would be like national organizations like Heifer International and just different things that have already gone through the boards.
Yeah, there's Girl Scouts right there.
Girl Scouts Diamonds
see
of
it.
Arkansas,
Yeah.
Oklahoma, and Texas.
And Girl
right there.
Scout Diamond
The fourth one down, yes.
of Arkansas, okay, good.
And
We
then
didn't
Boys
have
and Girls
those.
Club.
There's the
Boys and Girls
Boys and
Clubs
Girls
on there, just several things that were already there. So this is something that our students can participate from any of the ones that are already on this list. Okay, thank you.
So what they have to let you all know. How do they process they use, Ms. Leggett?
They have, of the 75 hours, 50 of them have to be on one specific project.
Okay.
And they have to meet with me before they do their project, and we discuss what they're gonna do, and is it appropriate, and is it significant enough, and are they gonna be appropriately supervised if it's not a school-related activity? Now, I will tell you that with these current juniors, because it is so new for them, if they're wanting to be an honor graduate, I'm being a little more flexible, because I had some kids who did some very significant projects over the summer, and they are with approved organizations, and so I feel like we should go ahead and accept those. You know, I had a girl that sewed masks at Children's Hospital for like 78 hours. Well, of course, we're gonna say that that's fine, and she's gonna be an honor graduate. So, we're trying to be a little bit flexible with this particular group of juniors. But, I have to approve their projects.
Okay.
How do they find out about this program?
Well, every grade level has a Google Classroom, and it's a pretty involved Google Classroom if you haven't ever seen one. That is where all of the senior information goes, everything, scholarship information, community service information, all of the paperwork that they need is listed in their Google Classroom. And then we will also, it's been announced, we'll go into the junior flex classes when we go over their transcripts and teach them how to read their transcript. We'll emphasize that again, and we'll do it with the sophomores and the freshmen as well.
So, our local agencies have to apply to be a partner. So if they are not on that list already, they have to be approved by our local school board here, and then we have to send your approved list on to the state board for, so that's the reason for this presentation. So, North Little Rock has more than that now.
We do,
On the list.
sorry.
We'll see that in just a minute. I didn't change that. I apologize. So, if they are approved for North Little Rock High School, this would also approve them for North Little Rock COE and the Academy. This is a district approval, okay? These are the 5 organizations, threw me off for a minute, I thought I said the wrong number,
Nope.
can't count. And that have currently filled out the application, and those are links to the actual application if you, want to click on that in your, presentation that was sent to you, but that has the applicant's information and what they plan to do for our students and all that. So basically, we are asking you all to approve those 5 applicants to be community service learning partners with the North Rock Schools.
And other organizations can come in and apply if they want to work in their community.
I just sent out 3 applications yesterday from people who contacted me, or parents who said, could you please send one to this organization? And I just do them as people ask me to send them out. I made it a typable PDF, email it to them, they can type on it, send it right back to me. The state board only approves them though twice a year. They do it in
November.
November and June,
Oh, in June.
so.
So for ones for this year, this had to be in by this.
Well, it started in 19th, but we went into the pandemic. I guess we never got off the ground too well or something. Is that what happened? Because, you know, I see other schools, how they
Right.
say so many.
Well, I wrote the course approval with Emily Taylor, who was one of our FACS teachers, and she ended up leaving. She was kind of spearheading getting things off the ground, and then she left before the first semester was over, and then we went into COVID in March.
Right.
So, yes, ma'am, it just got delayed.
Well, it's good. Kids can do something. Being a great, now, what if they come and tell you, Ms. LeJay, that they have already done their service work and they got the pen? They have to start fresh.
No, well, not the current junior class doesn't, no ma'am. Because like I said, it's so new for them, and I don't want anybody to not be an honor graduate because they couldn't get 75 hours. I wouldn't do that to a child. The freshmen and sophomores, but if you're talking about the scouts, I know to earn those badges or earn those pins, they have to have a specific program or a
Right.
specific project,
Right.
and that would be perfectly acceptable.
Okay.
So who's the record keeper? Who keeps up with this, though? Is
Me.
that you alone?
At the high school, yes.
How many counselors we got over there?
How many counselors are at the high school?
It's rhetorical, don't
6
answer.
total.
I'm just,
Yeah.
okay.
So can the freshmen and sophomores start their process early?
Yes, ma'am, they can start right now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But I know we've got something out to the Argenta Community Theater, the community theater across the river in Little Rock. Just as people bring things up, there's another food pantry that has asked for an application. So if you know of anybody you want me to send one to, just let me know.
But
Well,
after
Miss-
tonight, it would be June before they could be approved.
Well, Ms. LeJay, that sounds like, I'm like Ms. Walker here now, it sounds like a lot of work. Are all the counselors
That's what I was gonna
involved in
ask.
the process that they need to? Cause I know how many students you got up there now, come on.
Right, but no, not at the moment. Not beyond explaining the process to their kids. I am the record keeper because
Okay.
it's just, I guess it's a control issue on my part. I don't know. But it's just, I can own that at least. It's until we get things off the ground and flowing, I really think
Okay.
it just needs to stay with one person, because I've even asked the kids, if this doesn't make sense to you, I need to know so we can tweak it. So we can tweak the paperwork, we can tweak, the explanations, because it is brand new. And I'm explaining it makes sense to me, but sometimes things that make sense to me don't make sense to other people, and I know that. So I want to keep it at least for this getting off the ground. And then
Oh.
next year, we'll see about branching out a little bit.
Okay, I see where it's coming from.
Well,
All right. You
just
kinda
one
had
quick question,
scared
last question from me.
1,500.
Would our elementary schools would they be a possible applicant? I'm thinking, Mr. Superintendent, our high school students going and helping in some of our elementary schools.
Correct, and we
That's a
don't,
good-
our school district, our schools don't have to apply. They're automatically
automatically.
approved sites, yes, sir.
Thank you.
And that would be great for them to go out there and do,
Great.
and do
I'm
something.
enjoying it. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah,
because-
I think it's gonna be a really good program, yes,
It's
sir.
So
wonderful.
just so I clarify that, because I know I just left a state where you could, in elementary school, if you had a project, or middle school, it goes towards, in Maryland, it was a graduation requirement, you had to have 75 hours. That's a really good question, just to make sure I'm clear on what Mr. Steele is asking. So if an elementary student or a middle school student, they could bank hours, so to speak, towards that? No, it's just
It-
high school,
They have to be earned in grades 9 through 12.
9 through 12,
But
thank you.
our 11th and 12th graders could go do something,
Understood.
like start an art program. or-
Mentor.
Or
Right.
story time or something like that.
Understood.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, don't overwork yourself now.
Too late.
Oh, good, great report. I enjoyed it, Madam
Yeah,
President.
yeah, good presentation. Is there anything that's gonna have to be signed? Because I saw on the Red Cross that they needed a signature, or are there any others that need to
All
be
those.
signed?
Those 5 applications has a place for the board president and superintendent to sign. Before then, Ms. LeJay and I have to send that on
Okay.
to the.
So we'll get Ms. Pat to, we can sign those.
And I know the mayor's council, them kids ought to graduate early with Ms. Shaw.
Yep, she's what we got on
Ready
there,
to-
Michelle.
Ms. Shaw, the mayor's
Do you want to
council.
say that the superintendent recommends?
That's fine.
Or do you
Okay.
want
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the community service learning partners that were listed.
Second.
Moved and properly second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you,
Thank
ladies.
you.
Great
Thank
job.
you.
Madam President, members of our board, we'll just keep moving along. The next action item is 10.3, which is our master plan. And joining us to give us that overview is Mr. Hatch, our maintenance supervisor, and joined by Mr. Darrell Tessman, who's no stranger to us as we talk about facilities, and we appreciate his being here tonight. And we'll be asking for, the superintendent will be recommending the approval of our facilities plan. And I think, Mr. Hatch, you're just going to hit the highlights.
Yes, sir. Good evening, board members, Madam President, Dr. Paluski. What you have in your package is the master plan for the 2022 year. Basically, what the master plan is, it's a snapshot of all of our facilities. It gives the square footage, enrollment, it gives a condition of them as far as how the division sees it. Just so for instance, already you'll see Meadow Park is at 86%, meaning that they lose 2% per year. It's hard to believe Meadow Park's been around since 2014 now. So that's what that percentage is. We also have assurances in here that our buildings are insured properly. And really what the gist of this is asking for partnership funding. Okay, in tab 6, you will see the narrative, and in that narrative, you will see that we're seeking partnership funding during the 23-25 biennium to rebuild a middle school. And really, that's the gist of this. I know Mr. Steele had a question concerning the custodial input here. That is a state requirement that comes out of the facilities manual. And, you know, really, it's the division wants to make sure that we're taking care of our buildings. And so that's one way that we show them that we have a plan to maintain cleanliness throughout the buildings, not only for the health of the students, but also for the health of the buildings. You know, all dirt does is deteriorate materials. So, you know, that's why it's included in here. They want to make sure that we have that plan, sir.
Thank you.
And Mr. Hatch, do we have any update for the board on where we are in the process with the middle school and the matching funding?
Yes, sir.
There's the magic question.
Next week, Brownlee and Mann will be meeting with the district concerning the third-party facility condition index that Brownlee and Mann produced for us. It would seem it might be favorable for us. They just have some questions of clarification that they want to ask Mr. Porter Brownlee about that.
Will they be on site for this?
No, ma'am, it will be at the division. They're going to be reviewing Brownlee and Mann's findings.
And they have our report that we submitted that findings report to.
Yes, sir.
So you're the person that grant the money?
He's the guy who helps us try
I
to
helped
get
you
the
get,
money.
I'm trying to help you get the money.
Not the same one that was here a few minutes ago?
Yes.
You told me you write grants.
Yes.
Okay, now what is how are you here to communicate with us? Tell me, with Mr. Hyde.
Well, what am I supposed to tell you? Basically about the timeline probably of the process of what's gonna happen. Like Harold said, that the results of the FCI are probably gonna be favorable. I don't wanna say anything, but they're gonna be favorable. We'll turn in our master plan application come up March 1st. I'm afraid we've already passed up or the amount of time to get our early review, but I'm not worried about that because I've discussed with the division and they said they'd walk us along and make sure we had a complete application. That's the only thing I worry about is the complete application part. So we turn it in March 1st, and then by about of 22, and then by, I'd say, September of 22, we'll learn if the project is approved. It's a two-step process. First, you have to get your project approved. That means the division says it's a viable project, and they accept it. Next stage will be May 1st of '23. That's when you will find out if you're approved and you're funded. So that's the magic date right there, is May 1st of '23.
Okay, so it's my understanding, do we have to wait? I mean, I thought in the past that we did some of our projects, waited on funding and approval, and then just like got reimbursed. Am I thinking the same projects here?
Well, you can. You can, let's say, your project gets approved in September, and you say, okay, it's approved, that's good. But we know we're gonna have to do this project anyway, so we ask for a early start from the division. And they'll look at the situation and say, yeah, they're probably gonna start it anyway. And from that date of the early start acceptance, if the division accepts that, they'll reimburse all your funds from that part forward, just like you, but you have to get approved, because if you're not approved, that's the key, that's the gamble part.
So it sounds like early start approval, just so I've got it in my head.
Yes.
Did we not do that for like 2 of our projects in the past? I feel like we did, but I've slept since
I
then,
think we
so-
did
I feel like we
for some of the
did.
projects at the middle school
I
several
agree.
years ago.
I agree with that statement, yeah. Okay, I just wanna make sure that
But,
I'm tracking.
you know, we were talking a total of $5 million, and now we're talking a total of $35 million.
Look, I understand, I get it. I just wanna make sure that we weren't too far off on what we've done in the past prior to what we're going into the future and what we're looking at. I like the favorability, that's amazing, good, glad to hear it, but again, I know it comes down to the red tape, so.
We'll find out come up this Wednesday.
All right.
Mr.
So
Hatch.
we'll get a text message Wednesday afternoon?
We can get a text message, and Mr. Hatch will put it in the weekly board report.
Yes, I will.
I want a text message.
Yes, ma'am.
On page 9,
Yes, ma'am.
page 9,
Page 9, all right, go to page 9.
the numbers here are confusing me.
Well,
You're
and-
121, 22, and then these accurate numbers, Dr. Pelosi?
Ma'am, that was an oversight on my part. I've already got them lined out in my report to upgrade it before we submit this, because there's actually only 14 in the maintenance department and 63, I believe, in the custodial department.
That was because I
So-
kept the page 9 down when I looked at that, and
Thank you
didn't look right.
so much for pointing that out, ma'am, because like I said,
Oh.
that was just an oversight on my part.
Okay, so those are things that we have to come up to date. That's
Yes, ma'am.
fine, that was the thing that I was looking at, the numbers just wasn't gelling with what we had seen before. That's very good, thank you.
Okay, I got a strange question. These depreciations are negative. I've never seen anything negatively depreciated. What does that mean if we have the transportation, office, and shop 70% negative depreciated?
Once they reach 50 years, they're at a zero value. And they keep depreciating every year after that. For instance, if you look at Old Main since 1929, I think it's at minus 86% right now. So it just continues to go negative.
Historic. Negative 80.
So when you bring the report back, you want to come back again until what time? Get the timeline and everything, Mr. Hatch? About
About the middle school?
the building.
Referring to the middle school?
Uh-huh.
Yes, once we'll know, we can come back, just like Mr. Testman is referring to, come back specifically with a presentation on the timeline of components. So to Ms. Woncom's point, then we'll know by September if the board chooses to early do that. We want to make sure that's clear to you and the public.
Okay.
Because there's still rough drawings that have to be made and submitted with this request. So.
Okay. Cause I was thought about that, would you have to compare last year with this year? You know how, I remember somehow they were doing that, how you compare all of what, in your master plan, I guess that's what I was looking at, in the numbers and the feasibility of building and all of that, that's a concern. But you did a great job, Mr. Henston.
Madam President?
Is this report ready to be voted on? You said there was something that needed to be corrected in it?
Yes, the tab 9 numbers need to be updated.
Right.
But this this is also a time-sensitive document. It's my understanding, correct?
Since we're not going for the early review right now, no, it's not. And for board approval, as far as, well, I don't know, you might have regulations in-house, but I've had changes where the board has approved the master plan and told me that they wanted requested changes, like maybe an added project, some of the sort. So you could approve it tonight. And Harold has already made me aware of those changes.
Okay.
Well, if we do approve it tonight, then any changes would have to be approved by the board as well, correct?
No, I think he's saying we can approve it, saying with those updated changes on which one.
Tab 9.
Yes, I mean, you could
Tab
approve
9.
it pending with the suggested changes that have been discussed.
I think that'd be fine if it's in the motion.
Yeah, yes, I agree, Mr. Steele.
All right.
Okay, what was it, tab 9? You
Tab
said
9.
Uh-huh.
That way we have it. Madam President, I so move that we accept the master plan presented by Mr. Hatch. I almost called you Dr. Hatch. I know you earned that too, though.
Corrections.
With the corrections, with tab 9.
Okay.
Second.
All right. It's been moved and properly second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you,
That
gentlemen.
was sweet, Mr. Hatch, short.
Thank you, ma'am. You know, ma'am, I have my Mount Rushmore socks on, and if there was a Mount Rushmore for board members, you would definitely be it.
I need you to quit sucking up and bring me my salsa and chips. You're in trouble.
Okay, we got two more items. These should be short items. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that. Action item 10.4, the search and seizure interrogations policy. There was, Dr. Redis, you did mention a correction which has been made. I'm sure you saw that. So the superintendent is recommending the board approval of the updated policy related to search and seizure interrogations.
Madam President,
Yes.
I so move that we accept the search and seizure interrogation policy 10.4.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Moved and properly second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. And our last action item is 10.5. Again, this was presented at our last board meeting. The superintendent is recommending the 5% employee salary increase report. You also noticed, and I want to thank Mr. Smith of providing a memo to the public based upon some of the questions, just to further explain what the 5% is. So I do appreciate him and his leadership for putting that together, just to help clarify some of the questions that the board has asked, employees have asked, as it relates to the 5% salary report.
Question. Are we keeping an eye on what's happening or proposed to happen in Little Rock?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And matter of fact,
You know,
Mr.
those are the questions where you can't go to Walmart without somebody. asking.
Yes, in fact, I know Mr. Smith and I will be meeting on Monday with the LPPC. I know that they have been discussing this topic as well, and salaries, and I know that Little Rock and Pulaski County are making proposals as well. So we'll be coming shortly. The LPPC, I think, there has the right to be able to come and discuss that. So we're going to be meeting with them Monday.
Also, you looking around the districts, see how they doing with the monitoring?
So we've been paying attention. I know Dr. Paluski has been actively discussing with other superintendents, and I've been discussing with other executive directors of HR kind of what the plans are coming down the pipe as far as what people are doing with their salaries and what their strategic plans are in regards to their
Well,
salaries.
tell me, who gets some of this money? Are we looking at the whole district or just teachers?
We're evaluating the whole situation, ma'am.
The whole, everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that sounds a lot of equity there. That sounds good. But official report from y'all, all we doing is approving it, then you ought to come back and tell us how much they get. Are you still using this sheet?
It's a different issue.
So
The one you gave us last Tuesday.
Yeah.
that's the same report.
It's the same report.
Yes, ma'am.
Same
That's the
report.
same report that was presented at the board workshop that you all asked questions on, ma'am. And now we are putting it to a vote as an action item. The
Okay.
board has to approve it.
Well, this is How will we be giving people
No,
names
it's
that's
a
still on
different,
here that's
it's a different
retired?
issue, Ms. Williams. It's a different issue. You're confusing the two. Talking about raises is different from that.
Oh, okay, well, it was in our packet. That's
Yeah.
the reason I was asking.
Yeah, this is what we do every year. This is the thing we do every year.
It may be what we do, but I'm looking
No,
at
I'm
the
talking about,
number.
to report it. To report it
Clarifying
every
itself.
year.
Excuse me, it shouldn't have been in our packet. That's what we had last Tuesday. That's what you're saying. We're not going by this?
Yes, we
Yes,
are.
we are.
So what we put in the board packet was just to be transparent with the public. That was what we presented at the last
Tuesday at our
workshop.
workshop, right.
And the only thing that's new is the information memo that really accompanies the 5% salary report, just to provide clarity to the public and our employees
The
to,
sample that you all gave, A and B, in our packet, that's the one we should be looking at. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. There were 2 example situations
There
for
you go.
2 example employees to explain
No
some of
doubt
the
what
things you
you're
might have
doing,
found.
But when I saw this was confusing me. I saw people on here that were, we shouldn't have been in our packet, okay. This is what I'm talking about. We're going by this A and B sample.
so yes, that is just to explain that salary report, which is what the board has to approve by law.
Okay. Thank you. A
You're
lot of
welcome.
clarity. Moving right along.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll take a motion.
I just want to say something real quick before we do that. You know, just so it can be said too, I have no problem with like raises and all that kind of stuff, but I want to make sure too that everyone knows and, you know, to make sure that they're doing their job as far as making sure that our children are educated and they're doing their part, they're making themselves available. And I think we have some great instructors in the district, but I just need to make sure that everyone does their part with getting raises.
Work
That's all.
hard for your money.
Know your job, do your job.
Know your job, do your job.
That's very good. I'm glad, thank you for explaining that. I just did, this is what threw me off.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I thank you for all that you do. I have nothing else to say. Do we have to vote on this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Madam Chair, I move that we approve the 5% employee salary increase report that we're mandated to report.
Okay.
Second.
Second.
Moved properly second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam President.
So
Thank
we-
you, members of our board. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Ms. Smith.
So we have 2 more. Want to go ahead and say that special meeting and board workshop on November 4th and a regular board meeting November 18th.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Chair, I move we adjourn.
I second that motion.
We are adjourned.
And you gave us a lot of work. You know that. That is last night.
I'm mindful. I'm mindful.
The person that I asked you about when I got here.